thanks again for everyone taking time out of your busy schedules to learn a little bit more about Onshape. Here at EAC, we are a leading partner of PTC in helping bring product development solutions to people like you guys to help improve team collaborations on designs, data management, and getting products to market much quicker. And for today's demonstration of Onshape, we have one of our technical account managers here, Bill Schlund, on the call, and he will be running through the demonstration and talking about Onshape's capabilities. So keep in mind that at the end, we'll have a recording sent out to all registrants after the call, and we just ask that you hold all questions until the end, but we encourage you to put them into the question block in the GoToWebinar control panel, and we can definitely bring those up at the end of the conversation there. But yeah, that's all I had to say here in this introduction, and just want to say thanks again. So without further ado, Bill, I will let you take it away.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I am Bill Schlund, and I will be going through a new product development tool called Onshape. I'm going to start off with a PowerPoint, then we'll get into the software, but just kind of lay the groundwork and describe a little bit about how this is different. First of all, we want to talk about typical CAD users, designers, engineers. We have an example of 4 of them up here, and like most people, as a CAD designer, we want to be able to do things faster. We want to always be able to innovate and just be as efficient as possible. Everything below this dashed line are the things that keep us from doing those three things. The first thing is, first of all, CAD, it's always been like this for the last 25 or 30 years, is that we load software, right? So we load it on our workstations. Back in the day, it was on a server, but it still can be. And then we get this software load, we start thinking about managing the data, doing FTP, accessing our information from outside, maybe using VPN. So we start creating our files. And then what do we do with those? We want to exchange information, a lot of times work with other people in the ecosystem. So we might email a file, we might put it in Dropbox or something like that. The thing is that we're making copies. We make a copy of what our work is, and we send it to someone else. So then we got to start worrying about, is this the latest version? Am I overwriting anybody's work? Things like that. So then we kind of move along and say, well, why don't we just put everything on a shared drive, an internal shared drive? But again, we're still making copies and we're still worried about getting the latest version and overwriting other people's work. So as we get more sophisticated, we move into a PDM or PLM system. But again, those things are just copy machines as well, because when we check something out, somebody else can check it out. Somebody else can look at it. We're all pulling copies from the original. And then finally, we could say, well, we just can put something, all our stuff in the cloud. But again, we're still making copies of our stuff and putting those files into the cloud. What I'm going to be showing you today is different than this. We've gotten used to this is the way that things are, and it doesn't have to be. So let's kind of look at a software that allows us to do things a little bit differently. The way it does this is really Onshape uses what's termed a unified cloud solution. So in this solution, there's capability for doing CAD, there's workflow, data management, change release, things like that. Runs on a variety of different types of really anything that can access the internet because it's all based in the cloud. I want to highlight a couple points in our solution here. So we could say, as far as CAD goes, as far as a solid modeler, this is a very modern, robust solid modeler. Certainly there are libraries, it's multi-part or multi-body design in context. So while you're in the assembly, you can create geometry, sheet metal capabilities, and also with the software, the ability to create your own features. In addition to this, I mentioned before, there's data management. So we can have different versions of what we make. We can branch off of our design, let other people iterate on it, and then if we like what's being done, we can merge that back into our design. And then finally, there's built-in workflow. And I mentioned before, there's sort of release management. So what we can do is we create some product, we can send it in for approval, and then it can be moved to a release date, or maybe rejected, and then maybe more work needs to be done on it. But basically, those are the things that kind of will set this apart. Most importantly is that everything I do today is in the cloud. So let's look at Onshape. I have Onshape up here. I'm using Chrome, but I'll use another web browser later on. I'll use a use a lot of things today. But here we have basically different files that I've been working on, and then different folders that I've created to store different information. Let's first talk a little bit about my account. So when I log into Onshape, I have an account. And if we look at it here, I can kind of set up some defaults, right? I have different units of measure, degrees, what weights I have, just kind of set up as a default. I can always change those. Another thing is that I can customize the way my mouse works. So just about everybody who uses Onshape has at one point in their life used a different CAD system. So we can say, make the mouse work like these other CAD systems, so it's a little bit easier to adopt. Let's take a look also at our company settings, right? So this has a concept of a company, and in the company, we have the different people that work in the company. I mentioned before the release management. So here is that release management workflow. This is the out of the box. These can be customized. Another capability that it has right here is automatic part numbering. So I can determine what the prefix is, how many digits in the part number, and then I get a preview of what it will look like. So the different types of parts that I can create. So let's look at, now that we've seen a quick overview of really the way that Onshape is set up as kind of a role-based, company-based setup, let's take a look at some work that I've been working on. So I have something here called a support shaft. Here's the interface. So these are all the commands, just a single row across the top of all the things that allow me to create CAD geometry, either parametric or doing direct modeling, creating sheet metal, things like that. So everything is real nice and neat and clean. What I want to do here is talk about two little buttons at the top. First is Learning Center. So I can access between 100 and 200 different types of classes, webinars, tips and techniques, things like that to help me learn the software. Then there's the App Store. These are additional apps that I can get to help me do things like manufacturing, photorealistic rendering, FEA, things like that. This is really important, this share capability. This is what sets Onshape apart from anything else that's out there. And we'll touch on this in just a second. Right now, I've created some basic geometry. As you can see, I have a couple of sketches out here, and I've started to create some solid modeling. Again, my commands are up here. So I'm going to kind of go in and start to edit this a little bit. And we'll say, let's have it remove some material. I'll kind of drag it up here. And let's continue on and extrude out some other portions of our other sketch here and maybe give that a thickness as well. Now at this point, I can determine whether I want this to be a bracket, a single part, because it's adding it to my existing geometry to part number 1, or I can make it a separate part. And in this case, I really want to make it a separate part. So now this is a new part. You can see part 2 has been created down here. And now I can start working on the second part. I'm going to say, let's take and kind of extrude out some of this information. And it's saying, do you want to make this a third part? Or in this case, I'm going to say, let's add it to this part, that is second part that I have here. So now we have a couple of unique parts, and I can come in here and say, rename these, and let's just call it like a base. And this one, we can rename him, I don't know, some kind of side part. So now we've created, and really this is in part, what we call the part studio. And you're thinking, well, okay, you make parts here, but there's a lot more to the part studio than that. It's just not a file, it's a holder for information. So I can create assemblies, I can create drawings. In this particular case, I've created a folder in my part studio, and in my folder, I have a JPEG image of something that I could work on, maybe a artist rendition of what they want us to do. But again, this is all the relevant information I need to do my product development on this particular product. So now that I have this, it's really not an assembly. I have multiple parts, but really if I want to go and create an assembly, I just pick here and I'll say, let's create our assembly just by inserting. I can insert the individual parts that were there and do mate this face to that face, align these edges, things like that. Since they were both created together, they're in and they're oriented in the correct location, so I can just say bring them both in. So now we have an assembly, and it has two components in it. We can go take a look at the bill of material. We can see the quantity of one. Here's our base part. I could say, let's take the name, move it over to the left. There's a whole bunch of other column capabilities, information that I can pull from my part, or if I type it into the bill of material, it pushes in to my parts. Again, whatever I set up here in this bill of material is the exact same bill of material I will see in a drawing. So speaking of drawings, maybe I should go and create a drawing. So to do that, I'm just going to say, let's create a drawing. Again, this is all taking place in our Part Studio. I've created a custom format here. There's a whole bunch of out-of-the-box formats that they give you with the software, but I'm going to say, let's call up my custom format. And so my custom format, I could have had it set up so it automatically sets different views and automatically orients things for me. In this particular case, I want to manually put out the views so you can kind of see how it works with creating drawings. So I can make a drawing of either one of these parts, but really I want to make it of the assembly. So I'm going to say, let's insert the assembly, maybe put a view, kind of a front view here, maybe a top view above it there. Then come over here, maybe an isometric view. And then I'm going to say, let's make a cross-sectional view. Maybe right here, we'll place it over there. So now we have a cross-section view of our assembly. And now I can come in and start using, now across the top are all the commands. Once in a while, you'll see me come over here and have a window pop up. And really, this is all customizable by me. So these are the commands I frequently use in a drawing. It's same within assemblies or in parts or whatever. Again, I only have to move my mouse this far. I don't have to move to the top to do everything. But in this particular case, let's say, let's make a dimension something that we really wouldn't get out of our individual parts. So I'll say, let's place it right here. And when I have a dimension, I could say, let's maybe put a tolerance on it, make it symmetrical. Plus or minus 50 thousandths. So here's our dimension. I could continue on making dimensions. Here's a radial dimension. I can easily switch and say I want it to be a diametrical dimension. Again, add tolerances and things like that. So fully functioning CAD system here. Another thing that I might want to do is come over here and say we can insert images. I can insert DXF or DWG information. So lots of other things that I can bring to our drawing. One of the things I want to add in here is a revision table. So I'm just going to say, let's put in our revision table here. And then also let's put in our bill of material, maybe right here. So again, our bill right now is just a couple of parts, but now we have a start on our drawing. So let's go back to the Part Studio. I've got a good start on things here. But I need some help. Right? I want to have somebody do some work while I'm doing my own work, because I still have things to do with this, work to do on this, and things will get done faster if I invite someone to help me out. So there's different things I can do. I can share this with somebody. I'm going to kind of do that, but more in an indirect way is I'm just going to kind of right mouse button on this particular component, because this is one that I might need help with. And I'm going to say, let's add a comment to this component. And I'm going to send it to, and I'm just going to say ampersand and type in somebody in my company. We have Nick here. And I'm just going to say, Nick, can you help? And I'm going to assign it to Nick, right? Instead of just sending him a note, I'm going to actually assign it as a task. I'm going to say assign. It says, okay, you're going to send this to Nick and you're going to share it with him. Share this part, this assembly, everything I've done so far with Nick. So Nick logs in, gets an email, and so he logs into Onshape. So he'll say, sign in. And if we take a look at what Nick has, says, can you help with this? He has another task out there, but these are the tasks or things that people are asking him to do. He's just going to select on that. Here's that shaft I'm asking him to help me with. On this, or Nick clicks on it, and he can see not only the comment that I added, right? So we can see the comment here, but he also sees what I'm talking about, right? So it puts the little indicator here saying, can you help with this? Nick can kind of take a look at it. And he says, yeah, sure. And he can reply back. And again, I see his reply on my screen. Now the thing is, I'm going to make my screen a little bit smaller right here, so we can see both Nick and I working on this. So while I'm working on it, I could say, well, let's come in here and let's maybe round off a couple edges. So I'm having some ideas of what I want to do with this part, but we'll say, let's make it maybe kind of a half-inch radius. So the radius comes on here, and we can see it update automatically. Oh, let's put on another radius here. We'll cancel out. Say, let's put a radius on maybe right here and there. And when I complete it, you notice the second I hit the button to complete the command, Nick can see it. We are working on the exact same file at the exact same time. In fact, if I double click on his, we can see I'm sharing it with him. Here's this little image. If I double click on that, as he spins it, I would see it spinning. So if he zooms in on a particular area for a discussion, I will see the exact same thing. So Nick is coming in here and he's saying, you know, I've got some ideas, right? So let's say we want to make this a stamping. And he can add maybe an image to kind of help support that. So he sends me this information. We'll say add that. So he's sending me the image. I come over here. I can see the exact same thing. I can send him back a message. Yeah, that sounds really good. Now, before we get into this, maybe I want to make a version at this point, right? So as I've been working this, it's been recording everything that I've been doing. But what I want to do is now make a version. So we'll just say this is version 1. We could say pre-stamped. So now we've created a version. Now I'm going to let Nick start to work on this part. But while he's working on it, I'm going to be working on some other aspects of this. I'm going to actually kind of give him a variation of this to work on, because I don't know if he's going to make exactly what I want to see. So I'm going to come over here and say, here's the history of everything that we've done before. So at any point, here's all the clicks and things that I've done so far. I can go back to any point in time, click on it, and that becomes my current thing that I'm working on. So we're really working on a database at this point. On this particular instance here, I'm going to say I want to make Nick a different version or a branch in our history tree. So I'm going to say let's create a branch. So I'm going to pick on our area here and say let's create a branch, and we'll call it I don't know, like for Nick. And I can put in a description and things like that. So I've created this branch. You can see it branching off. And that's what I want him to use. So then I send him a message, Nick, use the branch. So first of all, let's take a look at what Nick sees right now. He can spin it around, zoom in and out, but you notice his menus are different than mine. I've got all the commands up here for creating geometry. He has nothing because he only has view capabilities. I've only invited him here to have him look at it, but at this point, I really want him to help. So I can go back to the share button. Here's Nick, he can view it. I'm going to change that and say now I'm going to allow him to edit that, update his access to this part or to this part studio. All Nick has to do is go over and refresh his menu or his browser, and now he has all the commands that I have, right? Because he has Onshape. And now he can start working on this part. So right away, if he's going to make this a stamping, Nick's going to come in and just say, I want to shell this guy out. Oh wait, before we do that, let's do something first. So Nick, I'm going to tell him to work on the branch. So here's that, and he's just going to click on that. So that's when he starts working. So now he'll come over and say, let's shell this guy out. So now it's a a stamped out part. If we look at my geometry, I got to set mine to the main branch, my main branch that I have here. I was looking at his work, but now we can see I have this, and I want to go in and start doing my own type of work. So I'm going to say, let's just take this and we'll make a part, and we'll make it maybe symmetric. So we're going to make a shaft for this, and let's make it a brand new part. So now I've created my part. You'll notice Nick's not seeing any of that work because he's working on his own branch of this design. I'm going to go in and let's rename our guy. I'll just call it shaft. If I go back to the assembly, you can see the assembly here. The shaft didn't show up because when I inserted and created this assembly, I just said assemble the first two parts. So now I can just easily come in and say, let's add the third one as well. So now I've got my assembly. My drawing will update. Nick says, I'm finished. Do you want to use this? Well, he's been working off to the side. He doesn't see the shaft. He doesn't see anything I've done. I haven't really known exactly what he does. I can come over, just come over and take a look at his work just by clicking on that. And we can see that we have our part stamped out. I'm thinking that's pretty good. I'm going to use that in this design. So all I have to do is say, I want to merge in what Nick has done. So he's merged in his work into mine, and now I have a stamped out part with the shaft. So I can say thanks to Nick for his help in this. We'll go back over here a little bit and take a look at the drawing. So the drawing should have changed. And what it does is it lets me know if things have changed. It highlights a little area on the top of the drawing in yellow saying this is out of date. Do you want to update the drawing? I'll say sure. So what this is going to do is brings in the shaft. It shows me we have our stamped out base part, and now everything is behaving as we would expect. One of the things that I want to think about is that this is a stamped part. It's going to take a little bit more lead time to create that part. So what I want to do at this point is basically go in and release it now and send it to the manufacturer to get it done so that we can get everything out the door as quickly as possible. So for our base part, I'm just going to say that I want to release this part. And so we can give it a part number. It's going to be revision A. The part number, I can type it in here. We can also, remember we saw the part generator before, automatically generates the part number. I can grab this and say the description of this is like ECN dash the part number, right? So it's basically an ECN that we're making. Who's going to approve this, right? So there's part of the workflow. I can give it to a number of people. I can give it to a group of people, like everybody in the company, all the engineers, all the designers. I'm not going to give it back to Nick, but I will do it for me, right? Just so I can do that. So I'm going to say, let's send this to Bill, and we'll submit it. So what this means to me is that as I gave Nick a task to do, I'm going to have one right now. And actually, my phone just vibrated because I got an email. So what I can do is go over and take a look at my action items. And here it says release. Here's the ECN number. And let's take a look at it. So here's the part that we want to release. I could say, let's view that. Again, I've already taken a look at the part. I can put in some notes, some comments, and I'm just going to say, let's release that part. So you notice the task goes away. Now that I've completed, it's no longer in my list of to-do things. And we can come back here. I can look at the history of the part. Now, first, when I initially sent it out, when it was getting, it's really kind of what's termed a candidate for release. It changes, from a revision, you get a dot here. But now that it's been fully released, I'm going to have to kind of refresh this guy. It's a filled in triangle, right? So now this is a released version of that part in our history tree. Everything is being kept in the same, really the same database, right? There are no files. There's not a save as, there's not this. We can create different versions. We can create branches. We can remerge them in, create a lot of variations. But that's really where the power of the system is, along with this ability to share things. Now, I had Nick here helping with this. I no longer want to give him access to it. I'm just going to say remove him from the share list. Now he can no longer work on the part. I've got it to the point where I want, and now we can start thinking about other ways of maybe accessing this information. So one of the things that I want to do is show you something here where I'm going to use my phone if I can here. I'm going to share my phone with you here. So here's the phone. I'm going to say, let's look at this assembly that I've been looking at. So I'm using my, in this case, it happens to be an iPhone, but Android or whatever. This is bringing up what we've been working on, what we've developed here today. And while I'm on my phone, I can kind of spin this around. I can kind of zoom in, zoom out. And looking at these two right now, this is like real time as I'm spinning it and doing things with it. So I can view it, I can see things like this. But what if I need to, someone's asking me for some advice or something like that? I have all the commands right here. Right? So I could say, let's go in and maybe put a chamfer on that edge. So I put a chamfer on my phone, as we can see here, and we'll kind of move it off, move this guy off to the side. And we can see that it's been added here. Obviously, it's been added to the assembly. And if we go back to the drawing, this is giving me that little indicator saying we should update that. And now we can see that the drawing has been updated with the chamfer as well. And our bill of material, right? Because we have all three components in here. So this is really kind of the world of Onshape, the way that we work with it and the way that we interact with it. Not only me personally, but the other people that I invite to help me be more efficient, to be more innovative, to do things faster. So with that, I'm going to turn this back.
You know, I think there was some big takeaways here from what we could all see and that Bill displayed. And really the things that stick out, you know, and how we're helping engineers and designers is, you know, we're eliminating that design gridlock for you guys, removing that constant waiting, the distractions, the hassles that prevent engineers from, you know, really doing the best work they can. And like Anthony touched on there, it's just the ability to sharpen that collaboration with your team, you know, being able to work on the same design simultaneously anywhere at any time, you know, just needing a internet access, and it's as simple as that. And then just getting your work done much faster. So just better parametric modeling tools, multi-part design configurations and context design. So yeah, like Anthony said, again, it's amazing what Onshape can do, and I hope you guys took a lot away from today's call. And yeah, if you have questions, feel free to throw them in there.